So today, while looking for a very specific thing, I'm considering getting the Silent Hill game. It probably takes a really lot of them. So when looking for a mouse, because I had, as I've explained before, I had some real technical issues today, and I went to the basement, to my mythical basement to look for some mice. I actually found some really old mouse, which proved to be non-functional. I found a non-functional mouse, so that didn't help me much. But apart from non-functioning mice and disappointment, I've also found a very interesting newspaper from 2011. A newspaper from 2011 that spoke of the events of 1981. So that's already a bit of history, right? 2011 referencing 1981. But why? Why was that newspaper from 2011 referencing the events from 1981? 1981. Why? Well, that's because, and that is what actually caught my attention to begin with, the newspaper's headline says, we don't need this, "The Lost Generation. In independent Poland, I have lost my job and I have lost my dignity." It speaks of a case of a woman who lived in the non-independent Poland. Because keep in mind, historically speaking, when we speak of independence of Poland, we speak of Polish sovereignty. Between roughly 1945, no, forget about that. Between roughly 1939 and 1989, Poland, historically speaking, at least within Poland itself, is not really considered to be a sovereign country. It's not considered a country that had sovereignty, because in that period it basically was considered 1939 to 1945. It was partitioned between Nazi Germany and the USSR, and after World War II it was considered a country that was controlled. It was, let's be honest, it was controlled by the USSR. So it had no sovereignty. It had no freedom. Thank you. And in 1981, due to certain events relating the Solidarity Movement was an anti-government movement, party established by the workers, mainly by striking workers. It grew to millions of people. It was like a movement that demanded many sort of, it started with demanding better conditions for the workers, then it sort of grew to demand freedoms such as freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of press, freedom of the media, many other things that have been demanded by the Solidarity Movement to make the country more democratic. And due to that, out of fear of the USSR intervention, in 1981, Poland has installed the so-called martial law, It was the martial law period. Many of the Solidarity people were arrested. My own father was arrested on day one of these events. It was very dramatic, very intense. In my uh, other room, in my living room, there's still this framed black and white photo of my father and his Solidarity friends sort of standing like this in prison. It was a photo taken in prison. My father just stands like this in a defiant pose. And there are his sort of friends all around him. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm more here to talk about this piece written in the Solidarity in the newspaper. The trauma of tanks on the streets have caused me to have great hope when it came to the democratic changes in 1989. But those changes did not bring anything good to this lady's life. New Poland, which after the trauma of the martial law has sort of managed to free itself from the oppressive regime of communism. It was supposed to bring freedom and prosperity to all Polish people. For Anna Zleudalska, no, not Zleuda, this font is so small. For Anna Zieudalska, 59 years old, a sewer from like a person that sews fabrics from Toruń, the change in government, not just in change in government, the whole system change, sort of, it proved to be a catastrophe for that person, in short. She lost her job, she lost her sense of dignity. Just because there was a restructuring in the company that she's been working in. She was unlucky. Someone who worked as like a... Hello, Ravignon. Thank you. Some person who's an accountant just did not include her in the new payroll and she was laid off. Miss Anna from Toruń came. Miss Anna came to Toruń seeking bread from Buska Zdrój. She was 21 years old and she had great hopes. She quickly found a job in Toruń. She sort of sewed fabrics. She worked for a big sort of workplace that employed 6,000 people. All was good. It was there when she met her best friends. She learned the toughness of life. She learned responsibility. Because what she did was only sort of on the surface easy, but it was not an easy thing. The sort of sewing of fabrics that she did all was pretty good. She had learned the tough lessons of life and she had found her place. That's basically what is being put forward here. Her workplace took care of its people. It organized trips for the workers. When the workers had trouble with their housing situation, there were the so-called rotation apartments. People were very nice to one another, And that is basically how Miss Anna remembers that period of the old Polish People's Republic. That is that those are her memories. This is how she saw her reality, basically. Somehow she survived the martial law period and the empty store shelves. The trauma of tanks on the streets have caused her to look into the changes in 1989 with great hope. She was hoping that freedom of the country would bring new possibilities, new chances, more. Mm, well, there would be more, prosperous. The future was looking to be more prosperous than even before. And then the 90s came, and as almost everybody, she believed that the country would flow with honey and milk. And her first slap on the face came when her company became restructured. She fell victim to the change. She was thrown out of her job before without any explanation. It just happened that the uh, people in charge of financing did not include her. It just, accountants did not include her. She did not give up and found a job in a factory uh, in a sweets factory, in a factory that sort of created sweets. The Copernicus Sweets Factory, in fact, a very famous historical figure, Copernicus. It was the second biggest factory in Toruń. After 7 months, she was thrown out. It is pretty colorful, but so what? Anna Żółdalska understands that the world has changed and we are living in a free world now. She understands that the communist Poland was gray and today's Poland is colorful. But back then, my life used to be better, as the woman reminisces. Right now, everybody just looks to backstab one another. It felt like everybody had money, but there was nothing in the stores. But we were able to get by. Now you can buy everything, but so what? There's no money to do it. Miss Anna sighs as she says it. This is not how I imagined my new Poland to be. She ends her musings with resignation, which is a pretty sort of sad, you could say, pessimistic note to end this article, this little discussion on. But it is an important sort of thing that gets, I could say that it's not necessarily discussed enough, how the old regime that was, let's say, there was this oppressive regime before 1989. It called itself, oh, thank you. It called itself communism. People's Republic of Poland was indeed quite repressive. It was quite a repressive regime. Did I just get raided? Oh my gosh, thank you. Hello. But Squid Ray, thank you very much. Okay, since we've been raided, there is an explanation that I need to do. There's some explaining that I have to do. So, today, while looking for a new workable mouse, I have found an article in the old newspaper. Oh my gosh, that's my brush. About a woman. This is an article from 2011 that speaks about 1981 Poland. It speaks of the generation lost. And now I can explain. Before 1989, Poland used to be part of the Soviet bloc, of the Eastern Bloc, part of the Communist bloc, so-called Communist bloc, and it was under a pretty oppressive regime. And so a big movement called Solidarity, a fundamentally workers' movement, started at first to fight for better workers' rights, and then it expanded into something much bigger. It expanded into a movement that fought for things like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of being able to have media that did not follow the party line, because Poland at the time was a one party state, and that party dictated what would be talked about in the newspapers, in the news, in any type of media. And the underground solidarity movement created its own newspapers, published its own books, and sort of dispersed, sort of spread its own, you could call it alternative, illegal media that basically tried to inform people without the taint of censorship. I would know because my father happened to be one of those people that was inside of the solidarity movement. He published my apartment, my childhood apartment was used as printing press for that sort of illegal media. But after Solidarity basically won in 1989, the whole system crumbled. The system was changed from the so-called communist system to a capitalist one. The biggest losers, ironically enough, of the changes, the biggest losers of that transformation from communism, quote unquote, to capitalism were the workers. The main people that made that change happened to begin with. The brunt of the solidarity movement has been betrayed by the solidarity movement. They were left behind in the changes. A lot of the people lost their jobs, lost their dignity. As they said, the newspaper sort of describes a single case of a single woman who says, Polish People's Republic used to be gray. You used to have the money, but there was not a thing to be bought in the stores. And now the new Poland that I envisioned is colorful. You can buy anything, but nobody has the money to. And that is not the Poland that I envisioned. And why am I talking about this? You could say, why are you even talking about this? That's not really all that relevant. That's not really all that important. Well, there is a certain level of big relevancy here, because here in the Eastern sphere of things, when a huge swaths of people feel that they've been left behind, when a huge number of people feels like they have been betrayed, what happens? There's a certain void in their lives. There's a certain feel of betrayal. There's a certain feel of even backstabbing that happened. And what happens when that feeling grows and sort of boils inside of people. Historically speaking, what usually happens when such a thing occurs? Well, what happens, no, actually, not just protesting. What happens is that you have populist demagogues, usually right wing variety populist demagogues, that will swoop in and say, all of you betrayed people, all of you people that have no money, that are betrayed, that live in poverty, your life sucks. You know what we should do? We should get rid of the immigrants. We should get rid of the LGBT. Um, we should introduce a tough government. We should introduce more sort of in control government that would be sort of, it will give you the prosperity that you need. But you need to sort of trust us, vote for us, and put us in power. That is basically what happens. We need to go back to the traditional values, those traditional values that the new Poland has betrayed, has led you to where you are now. And we can change that. We're going to change that. We're going to change your lives for the better through those policies of, you know, delegalizing gays and transes, and by getting rid of those brown people that take your jobs, and by, you know, changing the court system a little bit so that we can be in charge more. Because, if we do all that, your lives will simply become better. Unlike what your lives are now. You see what I'm going with this? This sort of thing, this sort of unwise rushing into changes that happen from 1989 forward, that left a huge chunk of workers disillusioned, betrayed, and impoverished, has opened the gates for the right wing to swoop in with promises. And this is basically one of the main causes of the right wing success in Poland. This is exactly how Law and Justice Party has been able to be in charge in Poland for so long, until not so long ago, because of these sort of things, because of this legacy of the solidarity movement that has basically betrayed its own movement in a way. It has betrayed itself because the workers were the movement. You see? So that's a little bit of a thing to think about, right?